we have a right to do all this. Therefore, when the different areas were covered, it came to my mind, and so was it to Purubi also, that why don't we take a session in the area that you have expertise, that is on consumerism and how it specifically affects the women folk. Today, even in this 21st century, there are many areas where women are still lagging far behind, and we need to provide them with that kind of relevant information with which life will become much more dignified, much more productive and effective for us. Hence, we decided to have this special session today that will surely provide us with a lot of information in our daily existence. I thank you, Mr. Warunjikar, for coming and sharing and spending your time with us, helping us to travel into an area which probably many of us are quite ignorant about. Over to you, Purubi.
Sorry, thank you, Ranjanati. Our speaker today is Advocate Dr. Uday Prakash Warunjikar, who is the President of the Consumer Courts Advocates Association, Maharashtra. He is also the Vice President of the Bar Association of India and an elected member of the Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa, which is the statutory body. He is a well-known advocate and also a well-known speaker. Dr. Warunjikar has spoken on various fora, including international platforms like BRICS Legal Forum and Law Asia. Just as a small mention, he is the topper in his batch during his postgraduate course, which he did in consumer protection laws. I'm not going to waste any more time talking on this part of the session. I will rather hand over the floor to Dr. Warunjikar on this very interesting subject of consumer protection laws and gender justice. Over to you, Dr. Warunjikar.
Good evening, everybody. Firstly, I must make a request. The request to all of you is this, that let us become a student of law. I do not know, and perhaps the group, those persons who have joined on this platform, they are from different age. Apparently, they are from different backgrounds. And Mrs. Banerjee made a reference that this is a group of educated women from India. So therefore, I'm not sure whether all of you are having a legal background. I presume that there is no legal background. So therefore, the next submission or next appeal to all these participants will be, please let us become a student of law. Around 30-40 minutes, you will have to become a student of law. And what I am using this phraseology again and again. You may be a good administrator, you may be a good professor, you may be a good academician, you may be having other different qualities in your life. But for becoming a good student of law, you will have to ask few questions to yourself. The questions will be why, where, when, and then we will have to find out answers to those questions. And this is that journey which we are going to do together. And of course, being a person who is having a little more knowledge than all these participants, I'm going to help you in raising certain questions and finding answers to those. I'm really happy that a new topic is suggested by the organizers. Of course, I had a discussion with them and I suggested that let there be a different angle, namely a gender justice and consumer protection. To be very frank, consumer protection is a topic which was in the syllabus of various law schools even though it was not in the syllabus of a law school, large number of participants who have joined online, they have heard about this. I presume that they are having some idea as to why the law was enacted. The Consumer Protection Act 2016 is the latest piece of legislation. Prior to that, there was 1986 legislation. And of course, the question will come as to why this act was enacted. And therefore, I am going to read the preamble of the new act. It's hardly 3 lines, but which gives an idea as to how and why this act was enacted. It says 2019 Act, Consumer Protection Act 2019. I committed a mistake. I made a reference about 16. No, it's not a 16. It's a 2019. The preamble said an act to provide for protection of interest of consumers and for said purpose to establish authorities for timely and effective administration and settlement of consumer disputes and for matter connected therewith or incidental thereto. As a student, one can immediately get an idea as to what is that particular important keyword. Keyword is timely and effective administration and settlement of consumer disputes. So what is that target? Target is dispute. Which are those dispute? Consumer disputes. What is to be done with reference to the consumer disputes? Settlement of consumer disputes. And that is to be done in the timely and effective manner. Now it also makes a reference about the interest of the consumer. Where do you get that interest of the consumer? And you will find under the scheme of the act, there is a specific provision which makes a reference about the rights of the consumer. These rights of the consumers are defined under subsection 9 of section 2 of this act. And those rights are the rights which all these participants are realizing, facing, and perhaps discussing and debating about those rights day in and day out. I'll just read some of those rights which are useful for discussion, which is the today's topic. The right to be protected against the marketing of the goods, product, or services which are hazardous to the life and the property. We are aware, day in and day out, there are such products which are getting marketed, which are getting supplied, and we are consuming all those products. So what is that right? The right to be protected against marketing of the goods which are hazardous to the life and property. Of course, the question is going to come that how gender justice is linked with this. I'll answer that. But since I am making a reference about the rights of the consumer, let me go to the next one. The first we have seen about protection against the hazardous. Second, right to be informed about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, standard, and price of the goods, product, or services. Just imagine what kind of a right, how big, how the right has been expanded. Right to be informed about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, standard, and price of the goods. This will give an idea how big this right is. And of course, in the Indian context, large number of ladies, they are not aware about this kind of a right. If we go in the market, then bargaining is our right. We always feel that Bargaining is our right. And large number of consumers do that bargaining every day. But as a student of law, where we get a foundation for that right? The foundation is here. The right to be informed about the price, right to be informed about the standard, right to be informed about the quality, quantity, potency, and purity. These are the rights which are already there. So in everyday, day-to-day activity, all of us, yes, all of us implement these rights. Oh, somebody has muted me. Sorry. All of us implement these rights, and therefore how this is having a gender connection, I'll come to that aspect little later. So the first is about the hazardous goods, second is about the right to be informed, third is right to be assured wherever possible access to the variety of the goods. So access to the variety of the goods, product or services at competitive prices is one more right. This is different than the earlier one. Variety of the goods is also a right. So it gives an indication about the monopolistic rights. The products which are having a monopolistic comparatively, we can say that there is a monopoly in the market of those goods, products or services. About that also there is a right. And let us be little fast about the other rights. Right to be heard, right to seek redressal, and right of seeking, right of consumer awareness. Other three rights, there is no need to go into detail. But now the question comes, what about this gender justice? Why this topic has been selected? And there is something which I wish to point out at the outset. I must tell you, in the Indian context, this is comparatively a new thought. This is a new discussion. And what is that starting point? Starting point was a conversation which was initiated by Deputy Secretary General of UNCTAD. This is one of the body which is in existence with reference to the consumer protection also. And that body had some kind of a small conference. There were three speakers, apart from Deputy Secretary General of this United Nations, one of the activity. And that conversation or that kind of a small conference is available online. It was conducted on 8th of February 2022, hardly around 15-16 months back. And the question was how consumer protection can contribute to gender equal world. Now this is that topic which we are referring. Ordinarily, the legislation or the act can be classified into two different categories. The act which are gender bias act, the act which are gender neutral act. If we look at a Consumer Protection Act is that way a gender neutral act because the consumer term is so big that includes the 50% of the population of the world, which is the ladies. Most of the participants who are here, they are covered in that terminology which is known as a consumer. So we can roughly say that the Consumer Protection Act is a gender neutral act. But the United Nations felt that there is a need for having a discussion on this aspect. All of us are computer literate. All of us have become slaves of the Google Mousy, which is there in our mobile. All of us are habituated to go to the search engine immediately. And therefore, I'm sure some of you must have visited the website of UNCTAD. Please visit. You will find a video recording of this entire discussion which took place. It is available. And now, therefore, a question comes that what are the things which are required to be introduced so that a gender equal world can be introduced through a consumer protection. This happened around 15th, 16th month, as I say. On the other hand, there is one more activity which was initiated by European Union. European Union also started discussing about this kind of a issue, how a consumer protection can be introduced in such a manner which will ultimately result into a gender equality. These are the different thoughts, different debates which are happening. Of course, we can say, or the criticizers can say that whatever is happening in the European Union can't be equated with the Indian scenario. The whole European Union, if clubbed together, then the population of the European Union can't be compared with our population. The Indian context is different. The problems are different. And therefore, somebody may criticize that, Dr. Warunjikar, you are right in saying that something is happening in United Nations, something is happening in the European Union. How Indian context you are looking at from an Indian context? Let me give you another example. Argentina is another country which has now introduced a guide. A guide, the name of that guide is Guide on Good Business Practice on Gender and Diversity. Just think about this. Argentina is a country where the similar situation is there. South American country. The market is similar as that of the Indian context. But Argentina, there is a guide introduced which is again available. And that guide said what are the good business practices which are having an object of having a gender equality. If these are the things which are happening in the world, then what is happening in our context? And therefore, you will find that this is that topic which was selected, that let us have some kind of a thought process which will begin. We are aware, day in and day out, the advertisements are coming to all of us. And about those advertisements, there are very few legislations in the India. When I said that let us become a student of law, I made an appeal. The appeal was, forget about all your responsibilities, all your expertise. Let us try to ask those questions to ourselves. What are those legislations about the advertisements? There is no dispute that the advertisement influences all of us as a consumer. Misleading advertisements, the advertisements which makes a wrong comparison, advertisement which gives a misinformation, advertisement which influence the consumer in such a manner that he or she is compelled to purchase the product. So many things are happening in Indian market also, and it results into a unscrupulous marketers who are getting a profit or they are getting a business out of it. And who are the soft target? Soft targets are that 50% of the population, namely all those women from the entire Indian context. And now therefore question comes, how Consumer Protection Act protects those who are likely to be cheated, those who are likely to be exploited, those who are likely to be taken for a ride. And therefore you will find under the act about misleading advertisement, there is a separate provision which has been made, that is subsection 28, and I'll just read for the purpose of information. Misleading advertisement means falsely describing such product or services, gives a false guarantee, or is likely to mislead the consumer about or as to the nature, substance, quality, quantity of such product or the services. It also covers convey an express or implied representation which is made by the manufacturer or seller or service provider would constitute an unfair trade practice. I'll come to this word little later.
So,
Deliberately concealing,
Acha.
deliberately concealing important information. These are known as a misleading advertisement. It is covered under the Act. And now the question comes about the main issue, that how consumers are protected. If we consider a challenge with reference to misleading advertisement, you will find there is no law as on today which controls the content of an advertisement. There is no law which prohibit a particular type of the advertisement, except there are few legislations which are concerning that particular specific area. Like advocates are not permitted to advertise, doctors are not permitted to advertise. Like with reference to the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Technique Act, where sex selection and sex determination is made as an offense, there you will find that there is a ban on the advertisement. You will find with reference to the indecent representation of women, those advertisements which are with reference to the indecent representation of a woman, there is a prohibition. There are few those specific enactment which are very short so far as the human life is concerned. Those are very specific topics which are covered under the advertisement topic. So we can draw an inference that so far as the advertising field is concerned, there is a vacuum. This advertising field is concerned, there is a need for a better legislation. Despite that, the problem is that how we are looking at it. And what is that? What is provided under the Consumer Protection Act? Now, coming back to the main issue with reference to the gender justice, in the Indian context, we will find that there are several legislations which are there in the field. If we go back to the about 200 years back, the Sati Abolition Act was introduced almost 193 years back, namely 1829. From that period, the journey of all those different enactments started. Hindu Widow Remarriage Act 1856, or Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929. All these different kinds of the legislations are already there. But despite that, the problem is with reference to the gender in India. I'm sure there is no any much need to elaborate the difference between the sex and the gender. Sex can be biological, we are aware. Male, female. There can be reassignment of the sex. We are aware about those kind of a surgery, and then conversion, transgender. Those concepts we are aware. But gender is a social concept. Once we look at this from that angle, then the question comes as to how the consumers are protected, how the Act intends to protect those who are in need of the protection, namely the woman at large as a group. You will find in the Act, there is a one more terminology which was used by me, that was with reference to unfair trade practice. You will recollect, let us go back. I read about the consumer rights, different rights. Then I made a reference about the misleading advertisement. And now, therefore, you will come to the next topic, that is unfair trade practice. This unfair trade practice is one of the important definition which is provided in the. May I request the organizer? Yes, thank you. Now, this unfair trade practice includes different kinds of such things which are detrimental to the interest of a consumer. We are aware that this unfair trade practice is coupled with a restrictive trade practice, because you will recollect, variety of the good was one of the right. So not only to get an information which is a right, not only to get a good quality of the goods or services, products, etc. is a right, but apart from that, have a variety is also a right. So therefore, from that angle, there is another terminology which is known as a restrictive trade practice. So this unfair and the restrictive, these are the two things which are relevant for this discussion. Having said about this kind of a preliminary aspect about the consumer protection, let me tell you very frankly, as I said, that this is an act which is having an intention to protect the rights of the consumer. If we are intending to protect rights of the consumer, then the question comes, how gender justice is getting tagged with a consumer protection. We are aware that there are several protections which are provided in the Constitution also. Our Constitution of India makes a reference about different kind of the protection which are there. These protections are for the 50% of the population. But despite that, the gender justice is still a dream. We are aware about the inequalities. We are aware about the discrimination. We are aware about the different problems which are faced. We are aware about non getting a equal pay, equal work. That is also an issue. The discrimination based on the gender, that is also a problem which is faced by Indian society. We all are aware that there is a mindset. That mindset is of a male preference. Our Indian society is dominated by the ideology which gives a preference to the male child. As a result of that, you will find that this has created such a mindset of the society. That mindset is in favor of a male. And of course, with reference to the Consumer Protection Act, again the problem is with reference to this mindset. Let us try to take few examples. In all those advertisements which are around us, most of the models are the ladies who are shown. They have been assigned a particular type of the work. So far as the male models are concerned, in the advertisement, they have been given a particular type of the work. And then the question comes, how these advertisements create an impact on the mindset of the society. It is undisputed that such advertisements which are misleading, the advertisements which are not gender neutral, the advertisements which are giving an indication that as a lady, the person is supposed to do a particular type of the work only, these are creating an impact on all of us. The mindset of the society. May I request the organizer? Yes. May I request the organizer to mute that participant, please? These advertisements create an impact on the mindset of the society, and then there is a challenge with reference to the gender neutrality of an advertisement. About advertisement, since I was making a reference about the regulatory body, there is an advertisement council which is there, but that is not a statutory body. Take a case that there is some misleading advertisement on the electronic media. we can make a complaint. But that is not a statutory mechanism which is provided for the purpose of redressal. Until the advertisement is removed from the electronic media, till that point of time, it ultimately leads into formation of an opinion of the society which is in favor of the male preference. Take a case that there is an advertisement which is misleading in the print media. You can go to Press Council. Press Council of India can look into it. They can give a direction to remove that kind of advertisement. But till that point of time, it creates an impact on the mindset of the society. And therefore, there is a question, what is that mechanism with reference to such kind of a misleading advertisement? The advertisements which can be termed as unfair advertisement, which leads to unfair trade practice, which leads to restrictive trade practices. And there is one more angle which has been added by virtue of the new Consumer Protection Act, that is with reference to the online transactions. We are aware that because of this corona, everybody has now changed the lifestyle. The new normal has become new practices. So we are placing the orders for the purpose of food. We are placing online orders for the purpose of even our grocery. We are placing online orders for our day-to-day consumables. So therefore, with reference to those activities which are online, what was the situation? There was no such effective mechanism. The new Consumer Protection Act has come with a mechanism which covers those kind of a transaction also. And of course, the most soft target is the ladies who are influenced by the advertisements. And therefore, the question comes with reference to these restrictive trade practices and the unfair trade practices. What is that mechanism? The mechanism is you can come to the court of law under this Consumer Protection Act and seek different reliefs. What is possible? The possibility is with reference to getting a replacement of the goods, a return of the goods, a return or refund of the money, continuation of the guarantee or the warranty. I must tell you, there are two different words, guarantee and warranty. Both are having different legal meaning. So you can enforce guarantee, warranty. These are the different options which are available. You can claim compensation. Under the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act, you will find these are the different options which are there. This act also gives an idea as to how a class action can be initiated. Maybe one person can file for the entire society. It may be called as a public interest litigation. How this can be done? That is also provided under the Consumer Protection Act. You will find that there are different kinds of those provisions which have been introduced under the Consumer Protection Act. And one of the important is the product liability. Now, since I was making a reference about those different advertisements which creates an influence on our mind, which perhaps mislead us to take a wrong decision, then the question comes, what will happen to those stars, those ambassadors who are endorsing that product? Now you will find that under the new act, this product liability is also brought under the purview of this act. What is the effect? Effect is those stars, those brand ambassadors, those heroes and heroines, those cricketers, players, champions who are going to endorse that product, they will have to be cautious. If they make any wrong and incorrect statement in that advertisement, then they can be booked under this Consumer Protection Act. This is the new concept, 2019, just it has come. And therefore, these are the things which are available under the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act. And ultimately, who are the biggest beneficiary of such kind of a beneficial or socially beneficial provisions? The large number of ladies who are comparatively a soft target from a marketing or advertisement point of view. Therefore, I suggested that let me express my thoughts about this topic, because the gender justice also contemplate empowering those who need such kind of information, making them sensitized, informing those persons about the problems which are likely to be faced in the near future. All these things are part and parcel of gender justice. And Consumer Protection Act also intend to introduce, to strengthen and effectively implement the gender justice, because as I said that this act is a gender neutral. This act intends to protect the consumers at large, and most of the consumers are the ladies. And therefore, the time has come to make one more different thought. That thought is what was done in the Argentina. In Argentina, the good practices of advertisement is introduced by the government. Can we think in that line? The advertisement which are misleading, which are derogatory, the advertisement which treat the woman as a product, the advertisement which creates a thought process which results into treating the ladies as a secondary class in the society. How can we control? How can we regulate? How can we prohibit those kind of advertisement? That is a challenge. Those advertisements create such a situation before all of us that ultimately tells us that the ladies are treated as a object from the sexual point of view also. How we can prohibit those advertisements? That is a challenge so far as the gender justice is concerned. And therefore, I thought that this aspect of regulating, prohibiting advertisements which are misleading and which are likely to create an impact on the mind of the society should be discussed. We are aware that misleading advertisement create such an impact that the people start thinking that whatever is provided in that advertisement is the truth. So therefore, what is the option which are available? All those educated women who are member of this federation, they can come forward, they can raise their voice against those misleading advertisement, they can write an email, they can write an article, they can come to the court of law if necessary, they can raise the voices against such kind of the advertisements which are most important from the gender justice point of view. Now let me give some of the examples. In Rajasthan, advertisements were issued with reference to sex selection, and the male child was shown in those advertisements. It was giving an hint to the male preferences, and the advertisement was by a IVF center. The advertisement was about the IVF centers which were in the Rajasthan, and that was showing the male preferences, and therefore a case was filed against those advertisers, which includes the newspaper also. There can be so many such examples which can be cited from a gender justice point of view. But in the meantime, a SMS came on the screen, and that SMS was sent by Purvi Ghosh saying that please tell us something about the consumer complaint. The consumer complaint, of course, there is a three-tier mechanism. That three-tier mechanism is at a district level, there will be a district commission. At a state level, there will be a state commission. And at a national level, there will be a national commission. Now, under the old act, there was a reservation so far as the composition of the district commission is concerned. What was that composition? One judge plus two members. That was the composition. And the provision was that there should be one who should be lady, namely 33% reservation was provided. These commissions were having different kind of jurisdiction. The value of the goods or services, if it is less than 50,000 or less than 50 lakh, then the case will go to the district commission. If the value of the goods or services is more than 50 lakh but less than 5 crore, it will go to the state commission, namely at a headquarter of a state. And if it is exceeding rupees 5 crore, then it will go to the national commission. There is a comparatively better mechanism which is provided for enforcement of the orders which will be passed. Namely, if you find that the order is not complied, the person can be arrested and put into the jail also. There is a mechanism which is provided that there can be a mediation under the act so far as the early disposal of those cases are concerned. You can file a case where you are situated. You can file a case with reference to the online service provider. There is an authority created under the act which can deal with different other aspects, namely about the class action. And ultimately you will find that this is a mechanism which goes up to the Honorable Supreme Court of India, namely the body which controls and regulates all lower judiciaries. From the district commission, the matter goes to the state commission. From state commission, it goes to the national commission, and at last it goes to the Honorable Supreme Court of India. I think this kind of a mechanism, which is in addition to the existing mechanism, has helped the common consumers. But as I said that the today's topic is little different, and therefore the gender justice and the consumer protection, this is that topic. And therefore my attempt was to raise a certain questions in front of you and start a debate. The debate which started on 8th of February 22 by virtue of the conversation or a conference which was organized by Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, which says that how a consumer protection can contribute on the gender equal world. We as a Indian citizen, we are proud that within few days we will become the country which is having the largest population in the world. And now therefore the question is how a gender neutral world or the gender equal world can be introduced by using the Consumer Protection Act. I think the attempt was to raise certain questions in front of you, and I am aware that almost 11 minutes are left. So therefore, may I request the anchor to open the platform for question and answer. If there are no question and answer, then I can continue and conclude my session. Is there any question? Somebody has raised a hand, or anchor can ask.
Yes, yes, friends. Is there anybody who would like to raise a question now?
No, I have one observation to make. Can I do it now, Purvi, or Vandana? Are you coming
yes,
in?
yes,
No,
yes.
ma'am, please.
Mr. Warunjikar, you just said that during COVID periods, we had the online system, of course, because we were helpless at that time. And everything we got through online system. But how was women specifically affected in that online buying?
You will find that this COVID situation has rather given rise to several cases where cheating has taken place, several cases of a fraud which have come. This data is not yet ready with us, but large number of cases are registered in the recent past, and most of the victims were female. And therefore, I made a reference that during this COVID, we have done online, but the victims who were during this online phase, namely the COVID phase, large number of ladies were the victims of those frauds or those kind of cheating. Next one, please.
Vandana ji. Yeah.
May I? Hi, Dr. Uday. I'm Vandana from Yuva Delhi. Some observations and some, questions. Firstly, I would like to say this is a very enriching, lecture. Very, we have learned a lot about this thing. So just tell me, is it a proactive thing or there is a monitoring body who is keeping watch? Because for an individual, it is very difficult to keep a watch because there are several different laws which you have, highlighted. So is there any body which is, proactive in monitoring? My first question is this. And second, you also mentioned about monopolistic, policies and competition. So just tell me where this differential pricing, in train tickets or in air tickets, can a consumer challenge? So, you know, so this is, and my third question is regarding an observation. There used to be a brand, I don't know whether they are still advertising or not, but while my daughter was a young kid, this is a Kinder Joy, a specific color for boys and a specific color for girls, and the price was same, but the differentiation was there. So can these kind of practices also be challenged? So please, thank you.
Okay, let me start with the first question. Dr. Vandana asked whether there is any controlling body, whether there is any mechanism which is provided. The Women Commission of India or the state level Women Commission is a body where you can make a complaint. But to be very frank, they are not taking action from the consumer protection point of view. Under the Consumer Protection Act, now there is an authority which has been created. That authority is having their office at Delhi. So therefore, you can write to the Central Consumer Protection Authority. That is possible.
So,
Second
but no
thing,
proactive, sorry
yes,
to interrupt,
that
but
can
there
be
is
a
no,
proactive. The
there can
second
be
question,
okay.
second question was with reference to those monopolistic activities like air ticket, etc. She made a reference. During this COVID period, you will find that even Supreme Court also took a cognizance about monopolistic pricing aspect about the air tickets. Most of the air tickets were required to be cancelled. Most of the companies were unable to refund. Most of the companies, air companies were unable to adjust the travelers, and they were not rescheduling their flights. The Supreme Court of India was required to intervene in such situation, and then the order came. Not only that, you will find that the travel companies which were there, with reference to them also a order was required to be passed by the Supreme Court of India, based on which ultimately the travel companies were directed to adjust that particular amount which is unutilized or unconsumed. The third question was about the toys. We are aware that these are the ground realities. The pink color and the blue colors toys, or the pink color and the blue color dresses, these are the things which have been utilized for years together, and it creates impact on our mindset. And therefore, the gender justice, when we are talking about, then these colors are, of course, they will have to be debated and discussed. But as I said, that the changing the mindset will take some substantial time. And when we are looking from the angle of a consumer protection, as I said, that it's a new thought, it's a new concept. And how consumer protection and the gender justice can be clubbed together, that is a task. And I am sure all of us can do it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone
Dr.
else? Anyone else? Ranjana, would you like to invite the vote of thanks?
Like to invite the photos.
vote of thanks in.
Yes, I would like to, but Mr. Warunjikar, would you like to conclude it?
Now hardly 3 minutes or 4 minutes are left. According to me, these are the initiatives where some take home is required. We will have to keep this in the mind that this is the new topic which has come. We will have to keep on discussing, debating on this topic. And I'm sure once educated ladies like all these participants who are on the screen, if they are together and if they discuss and if they decide to implement this, then I'm sure the future of the consumer protection is also bright, and very soon there will be a gender justice. Thank you for the patient hearing, and I wish every success to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
thank you, Mr. Warunjikar. That was an informative session for all of us. Thank you so much for spending so much of your time with us. Now, before I request for the vote of thanks, I would just like to know that amongst the participants, is there anybody from Bhubaneswar? Is there any participant from Bhubaneswar?
No, from Aurangabad we are here, not
Okay,
Pune.
not Bhubaneswar. All right. Thank
Thank
you. Gomati, you may now give the vote of thanks.
Yes.
May I request everyone to have their cameras on so that we can have a screenshot, please? Kumudidi, please continue.
Yeah. On behalf of the Indian Federation of University Women's Associations, I have the privilege today to thank our president, Dr. Ranjana Banerjee. Also thank the WGU in Bombay for having recommended Dr. Warunjikar for this excellent talk. I think it is extremely timely since the past 2 years, the pandemic has made us all go online for all our personal purchases. And I think Dr. Warunjikar was quite right when he said that it is the woman who's vulnerable, because whatever you may say, the kind of strategies one uses for online purchases, perhaps the woman hasn't made herself up to date on these kind of purchases, and we blindly buy without knowing what is encompassed in this. And I, for myself, have lost a big sum of money in having bought shirts for my son, which turned out to be useless stuff. And the next time I tried to contact that advertising company that had come online, they were nowhere to be found. They were these kind of fly-by-night commercial advertisers. So I think this is extremely important that we women make ourselves aware and pass these awareness that there are protection acts being made since 2019, and the UN is also taking care that gender justice is brought to the world's awareness. Thank you very much, and for all the members who have attended today, we have become wiser for this talk. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Have you taken a screenshot, Purvi?
Yes, I have. There's some people are not there still, but I've taken. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Gomati.
Warunjikar.
Thank you, Purvi. And thanks all participants who have attended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Purabi, for the technical team. Bye.
Ranjana, should I close the meeting?
Yes, you close the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.